The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched high above like a metal mountain. 12 different alien species sat in their special chairs, each one bigger and more decorated than anything humans had ever seen. Their voices echoed off the walls as they argued about Earth's request to join their group. Ambassador Min-jun Park stood alone in the center of the room. His simple blue uniform looked plain next to the shining robes and strange machines the aliens wore. He kept his hands at his sides and his face calm, even though he knew his life might end today. The Zephyrian Chancellor rose from her crystal throne. Her body looked like living glass, and when she spoke, her voice sounded like breaking ice. "The human species stands accused of serious crimes," she announced. "They have built weapons we told them not to build. They have put military bases in space where they should not be. And they refuse to give us the codes that protect their home planet." Min-jun stepped forward. "Honored council members," he said in a clear voice, "everything Earth has done was to protect our people. We have been attacked by Carvex raiders 15 times in the past year. Our colonies have been burned and our people killed. We only built defenses after asking for your help and receiving none." The War Prince of Thalor slammed his 6 fists on his chair. He shouted, "Humans are too violent for civilized space. You breed like insects and eat everything in sight. We have watched your species for 50 years. You never stop fighting each other." Number 3. The insect-like Zrek representative made clicking sounds that meant agreement. Her compound eyes reflected the light as she spoke through a translator box. "The collective agrees. Humans cannot be trusted. They are too young and too dangerous." Min-jun pulled out a small device and showed images in the air above his hand. The pictures showed burned human settlements and dead families. "These are not the actions of a violent species. Min-jun formations the stayed. Within Rassens houden 70s. With Menebanen described passive," he said quietly. "These are the desperate defenses of people who just want to live in peace. We came here today, asking for protection under your own laws. We followed every rule you gave us." The council members whispered among themselves in their different languages. Some looked uncomfortable, but most seemed unmoved by the evidence. The peaceful Melodian delegate raised one thin arm. Her voice sounded like soft music. "Perhaps we should consider the human request more carefully. They have shown they can follow our trade laws and peaceful contact rules." But Chancellor Vex, 7 of the Zephyrians, cut her off. "No," the crystal being said firmly. "We must send a clear message. Other primitive worlds are watching us today. If we show weakness to one species, others will think they can challenge our authority." The first vote came quickly. 9 species voted to reject Earth's membership. Only the Melodians voted in favor, while 2 others chose not to vote at all. Min-jun had expected this. But what came next shocked even him. "Rejection is not enough," Chancellor Vex, 7 announced. "This species has shown repeated defiance of our warnings. They continue to build weapons and expand their territory. We must make an example that other young species will understand." The War Prince grinned, showing sharp teeth. "I agree. Fear is the only thing primitives understand." "What are you suggesting?" the Melodian asked, her musical voice turning sharp with worry. "Execution of the Envoy," Vex 7 stated coldly. "Public execution. Broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Let them see what happens to those who challenge the Council's authority." The vote came faster this time. 7 in favor, 3 against, 2 abstentions. The energy restraints activated around Min-jun before he could move. Blue light wrapped around his arms and legs like solid air. Min-jun felt the energy binding him, but he stayed calm. His fingers found a small button hidden inside his uniform sleeve. He pressed it 3 times, sending a coded message to Earth. The signal would take 4 hours to reach home, but it would get there. "Do you have any final words, human?" Chancellor Vex, 7 asked. Minjun looked up at the towering aliens around him. You have shown me that peace is not what you want. He paused and pressed the hidden button 2 more times. My people will understand your message perfectly. The ceremonial blade materialized from energy, a tradition the council used for important executions. It glowed, with the same blue light as the restraints. Any species watching this should know. The Zephyrian Chancellor announced to the cameras, "This is what happens to those who threaten galactic peace." The blade fell. Minjun's last transmission reached Earth exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes later. The message was short and coded, but every human in the government knew what it meant. Protocol 7 had been authorized, the one plan they hoped they would never need to use. President Chen Wei-lin received the message in her private office. She read it twice, then walked to her window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, her friend and ambassador was dead, killed for asking for help. She picked up her secure phone and made 3 calls. The first was to Admiral Thompson, head of Earth's secret space fleet. The second was to Dr. Nakamura, director of the weapons program no alien knew existed. The third was to her daughter, to tell her she would be working late for a long time. In the depths of space, beyond the orbit of Pluto, massive ships that had been hidden for 10 years began powering up their engines. The galaxy thought humans were primitive and weak. They were about to learn the difference between choosing peace and being capable of only peace. The Council had made their position clear. Now Earth would make theirs clear in return. The age of human patience was over. The emergency meeting room deep under Earth's capital was filled with the planet's most important people. President Chen Wei-lin sat at the head of the long table, her face like stone. Around her sat generals, admirals, scientists, and intelligence chiefs. All of them had the same look in their eyes: cold anger. Ambassador Park is dead, the president said quietly. They executed him on live broadcast to every world in the galaxy. They wanted to send a message about what happens to species that challenge them. Admiral Sarah Thompson, head of the Terra Defense Force, stood up. Her uniform was covered with medals from wars most people had forgotten. Ma'am, we have 43 colonies across 18 star systems. Over 200 million humans live in space now. If the Council decides we're all threats, they'll try to wipe us out completely. The room was silent. Everyone knew she was right. Dr. Yuki Nakamura raised her hand. They've never seen our real technology because we've been trying to be peaceful. We've been hiding our strength to avoid scaring them. President Chen nodded slowly. Protocol 7 was designed for exactly this situation. We hoped we'd never need it. But Min Jun knew the risks when he took that job. She pressed a button on the table. A hologram appeared, showing the entire galaxy. Red dots marked human colonies, green dots showed council worlds, and blue lines connected all the trade routes. As of right now, every human ship in space has new orders, the president announced. We're pulling back from all council territory. Every colony, every trade mission, every research station, everyone comes home. General Martinez, head of Colonial Defense, frowned. Ma'am, that will look like we're running scared. The council will think they've won. Good, President Chen said with a cold smile. Let them think that. While they celebrate their victory, we'll be preparing for something they've never seen before. The orders went out immediately through secret channels no alien knew existed. Human ships across the galaxy received coded messages that looked like ordinary business communications. But every human captain understood what they really meant. Captain Elena Vasquez was trading medical supplies near the Centauri system when her ship's computer chimed softly. The message appeared to be about changing shipping schedules, but she'd been trained to read the real meaning. Protocol 7 was active. All humans were coming home. She looked at her crew. 5 good people who'd been working the trade routes for years. Pack everything up, she told them. We're heading back to Earth. 40, What about our contracts with the Andromedans? Her first officer asked. The Andromedans will have to find someone else to trade with, Elena said firmly. We have more important work to do. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out hundreds of times. Human merchants, explorers, scientists, and workers all received the same message. Come home. Bring everything. Tell no one why. The alien news networks were quick to notice. Within days, reports spread about humans retreating in fear after their ambassador's execution. Zephyrian officials gave interviews praising the Council's firm action. Thalorian military leaders boasted about how easily they could crush any human resistance. But none of them noticed the real signs of what was happening. On the edges of the solar system, massive construction projects that had been running in secret for 10 years suddenly got new priority. Ships that officially didn't exist began final preparations. Weapons that had been tested in hidden labs were loaded onto vessels no alien had ever seen. Dr. Nakamura stood in the main hangar of Prometheus Station, watching her life's work take shape. The station was built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, beyond Neptune's orbit. No Council spy satellite had ever found it, and no alien ship had ever come close enough to detect it. How many ships do we have ready? She asked her assistant. 47 attack vessels, 12 carriers, and 6 siege ships, the young man replied. All using technology the Council has never encountered. The quantum tunneling drives alone give us capabilities they can't match. Nakamura nodded. The quantum drives were her greatest achievement. Engines that could move ships instantly across vast distances without using the predictable hyperspace routes aliens relied on. No more waiting weeks for messages to cross the galaxy. Human ships could appear anywhere, anytime, with no warning. Back on Earth, President Chen received daily reports from the evacuating colonies. Her people were coming home, but they weren't running in panic. They moved with purpose, bringing with them everything they'd learned from 10 years of watching alien technology and tactics. Colonel Kim Tae-hyun commanded the evacuation of Haven Colony, humanity's furthest settlement. As his people packed their equipment, he noticed something the aliens hadn't. His colonists weren't crying or complaining. They were angry. Sir, one of his sergeants said quietly, the men are asking when we fight back. Kim looked up at the alien patrol ships circling overhead, Zephyrian vessels, probably laughing about how the scared humans were running away. Soon, he promised. Very soon. The last human civilian transport left Council space exactly 30 days after Ambassador Park's execution. As it jumped to hyperspace, its captain sent a final message to the Galactic Council headquarters. Thank you for making your position clear. We understand perfectly now. Well. Deep in the Prometheus facility, Admiral Thompson reviewed the final battle plans with President Chen. Every human military asset was now accounted for. Every weapon was tested and ready. Every ship had its target assigned. The galaxy is about to learn something important, the Admiral said quietly. What's that? The President asked. There's a big difference between choosing peace and being too weak to fight. President Chen looked at the star charts covering the walls around them. Each red mark represented a place where humans had tried to live peacefully among the stars. Each one had been threatened, attacked, or abandoned because the Council saw kindness as weakness. Min Jun believed in peaceful solutions right up until they killed him, she said softly. Now, we'll show them what happens when peace isn't an option anymore. The countdown to humanity's response had begun. The galaxy celebrated the defeat of the primitive human species, completely unaware that they had just awakened something they were not prepared to face. Earth's children were coming home carrying fire. 3 months after Ambassador Park's death, strange energy readings began appearing on long-range sensors throughout the galaxy. The signals came from the direction of Earth's solar system. But Council scientists dismissed them as desperate defensive preparations by a scared species. Captain Elena Vasquez guided her ship through the darkness between stars. The Times Shadow of Europa Times was humanity's most advanced reconnaissance vessel, built with technology stolen from a dozen different alien species over the past decade. Her mission was simple but dangerous: map every Council military base within 50 light-years of Earth. Elena's ship was invisible to alien sensors. Human scientists had cracked the codes of Council detection systems years ago, while the aliens still thought humans were using primitive rocket engines. The Times Shadow Times could slip past their defenses like a ghost. "Captain," her sensor officer called quietly, "I'm detecting the Zephyrian Third Fleet ahead. 12 heavy cruisers and support ships." Elena smiled coldly. "Perfect. Start recording everything. Ship types, weapon placements, crew numbers. Command wants to know exactly what we're facing." For weeks, Elena and dozens of other human scouts had been gathering intelligence across Council space. What they found was both encouraging and disturbing. The galaxy's peaceful Council maintained order through massive military superiority. Their fleets were spread across hundreds of systems, ready to crush any species that stepped out of line. But the scouts also discovered something else. The Council forces were overconfident and unprepared. They hadn't fought a real war in over a century. Their ships were powerful but predictable, following the same patrol routes and using the same tactics they'd used for decades. Near the human colony of New Sol, Commander Sarah Park, N. no relation to the dead ambassador, watched Zephyrian patrol ships through her periscope. Her submarine waited hidden beneath the ice of an asteroid field, completely invisible to the crystal ships above. The Zephyrians were broadcasting warnings on all frequencies. Any human vessels in this sector must submit to immediate inspection. Resistance will be met with deadly force. Sarah's crew listened to the threats in silence. These aliens were flying through space that used to belong to human colonists, acting like they owned everything. They expected humans to beg for mercy. "Ma'am," her communications officer whispered, "we're receiving a quantum transmission from Earth. It's Admiral Thompson." Sarah read the message carefully. Phase 1 intelligence gathering was complete. Phase 2 would begin in 72 hours. All scout ships should move to final positions. On the Council capital world of Nexus Prime, Councillor Thex of the Melodian Harmony sat in his private chambers, deeply troubled. His species had voted against executing the human ambassador, and now he sensed approaching disaster. Thex activated his personal communicator and sent a secret message to his homeworld. The human ambassador showed no fear when they killed him. His bio-readings remained steady even as the blade fell. This suggests either incredible courage or knowledge of something we do not understand. I believe we have made a terrible mistake. Back on Earth, Dr. Nakamura stood in the main control room of the Prometheus project. Around her, screens showed the positions of every human ship in the galaxy. For the first time in human history, their entire species could communicate instantly across vast distances through quantum tunneling networks. "All reconnaissance teams report ready," her assistant announced. "Intelligence gathering is complete. We have detailed maps of Council military positions across 47 systems." Admiral Thompson studied the tactical displays with satisfaction. "They've spread their forces thin across their territory. They never expected anyone to challenge them simultaneously, in multiple locations." President Chen joined them in the command center. "Any word from our diplomatic contacts?" "The Melodians are nervous," Thompson reported. "Some of their leaders are quietly asking questions about human intentions. The other Council species seem completely confident that we're beaten." Dr. Nakamura pulled up a holographic display of the galaxy. Red dots marked Council military targets. Blue lines showed human ship positions, and green arrows indicated planned attack routes. "The beauty of our quantum drive system," she explained, "is that we can coordinate attacks across impossible distances. When we strike, it will happen everywhere, at once. They won't have time to call for help or reorganize their defenses." In hidden bases throughout the outer solar system, human military forces made final preparations. Soldiers who had trained in gravity chambers and hostile environment simulators checked their weapons one last time. Pilots who had learned to fight in 3 dimensions prepared for battles among the stars. Sergeant Kim Tae-hyun suited up in his combat armor, deep inside Phobos base. Around him, his squad of enhanced Marines prepared for their assignment. The assault on Axiom Prime, the Council's strongest fortress world. "Listen up," Kim told his men. "The aliens think we're primitive because we come from a heavy gravity world. They think we're slow because we don't have their fancy genetic modifications. Tomorrow, they learn what evolution on a death world really produces." His soldiers grinned behind their helmet visors. They had trained their entire lives for this moment. The chance to show the galaxy what humans could do when diplomacy failed. Captain Vasquez completed her final reconnaissance mission and prepared to return to Earth. Her ship's computers contained detailed information about Council fleet positions, defensive systems, and communication networks. But more importantly, she had confirmed something human intelligence suspected. The Council had grown soft during their long period of dominance. "Set course for the rally point," she ordered her crew. "It's time to go home." As human ships across the galaxy began moving toward their attack positions, the Council forces continued their routine patrols. They had no idea that invisible scouts had been watching them for months, learning their weaknesses and mapping their defenses. On Nexus Prime, emergency meetings convened as reports trickled in about increased energy readings from human space. But the Council leadership dismissed the warnings. Humans were primitive. They had shown their weakness by retreating after their ambassador's death. Chancellor Vex 7 addressed the Council chambers with confidence. "The human threat has been eliminated. They understand their place in the galaxy now. Soon we can turn our attention to other primitive species that need similar lessons." But deep in Earth's command bunkers, President Chen was broadcasting final orders to her military commanders across the galaxy. "Operation Justice begins in 24 hours. Remember what they did to Ambassador Park. Remember that they killed a man who came seeking peace. Make sure they never forget what happens when they mistake human mercy for weakness." The storm that had been building for 3 months was about to break across the galaxy. The Council celebrated their easy victory over the primitive humans, completely unaware that they were about to face something no species in galactic history had ever encountered: the full military might of a death world species that had finally stopped trying to play by civilized rules. Earth's children were coming home, and they carried fire. The attack began at exactly 12 Earth Standard Time across 47 star systems. Human ships appeared from quantum tunneling drives in locations that should have been impossible to reach. The galaxy's age of easy dominance was ending in fire and fury. Admiral Sarah Thompson watched from the bridge of the massive dreadnought Times, Incheon's Vengeance Times, as humanity's response unfolded across the galaxy. Her tactical display showed green dots representing human forces, appearing simultaneously around Council targets that were thousands of light-years apart. "All units report ready, Admiral," her communications officer announced. "Begin Operation Justice," Thompson commanded. The Zephyrian Third Fleet died first. Captain Elena Vasquez, now commanding the attack destroyer Times Park's Memorial Asterisk, led the assault on the crystal ships that had been patrolling former human space. The aliens had been expecting desperate refugees begging for mercy. Instead, they faced coordinated strikes by vessels that could appear and disappear at will. "Target the flagship," Elena ordered. "Make it personal." The Zephyrian fleet's beautiful crystal ships shattered like glass under concentrated kinetic bombardment. Human weapons, developed in secret from captured alien technology, tore through their defenses with ease. The flagship Times, Crystal Harmony Times, exploded in a shower of brilliant fragments that reflected the light of the nearest star. At the fortress world of Axiom Prime, War Prince Gorthak commanded the Council's strongest defensive position from his ceremonial battle throne. His 6 arms moved across control panels as alarms screamed throughout his command center. "Report," he roared at his staff. "Unknown ships appearing inside our defense perimeter. a Thalorian officer replied, his red skin pale with fear. They're using some kind of instantaneous travel technology. Our long-range sensors show nothing. Then suddenly they're here. Gorthak studied the tactical displays with growing disbelief. The attacking ships were smaller than his massive defense platforms. But they moved with impossible coordination. Every shot they fired hit exactly where it would do the most damage. How many ships? He demanded. We count 37 human vessels, sir. But they're fighting like a fleet 10 times that size. The fortress walls shook as human marines breached the outer defenses. Sergeant Kim Tae-hyun led his enhanced soldiers through corridors designed for aliens half their size. The heavy gravity and thick atmosphere that would have crushed most species felt like home to humans born on Earth. Move fast, Kim ordered his squad. The longer this takes, the more time they have to call for help. His soldiers swept through the fortress like a storm. Their weapons, powered by miniaturized fusion reactors, cut through alien armor and shields with terrifying efficiency. They had trained their entire lives for combat in hostile environments, while their enemies had grown soft during decades of easy victories. In the main command center, War Prince Gorthak made his last stand. He was over 7 feet tall, genetically modified for warfare, and armed with the finest weapons his species could produce. But when Sergeant Kim kicked down his door, the Thalorian prince found himself facing something he had never encountered: a human soldier from a death world. For Ambassador Park, Kim said simply, and opened fire. On the other side of the galaxy, the Zrek Collective's hive ships burned in the void around their colony worlds. The massive vessels, each housing millions of insectoid warriors, had seemed invincible when they attacked defenseless human settlements. Against Earth's military, they died like any other target. Commander Lisa Chang piloted her fighter through the wreckage of a Zrek battle cluster. Her squadron had eliminated 12 enemy ships in as many minutes, using tactics no alien species had seen before. Human pilots, trained to fight in 3-dimensional space since childhood, moved through the void like they were born there. On the Council's capital world of Nexus Prime, emergency sessions convened as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Chancellor Vex 7's crystalline form flickered with panic as she tried to understand what was happening. How can these primitives coordinate across such distances? She demanded. Our fastest communication systems take weeks to cross the galaxy. The answer came through hijacked communication networks. Dr. Nakamura's voice, calm and precise, spoke to the entire council chambers. You killed our ambassador during a peace mission. Did you think we learned nothing from watching your species for the past century? The holographic display in the council chambers showed the devastating scope of human attacks. Red warning lights flashed across dozens of star systems as military bases, patrol fleets, and defense platforms were systematically destroyed. Impossible, whispered the insectoid Zrek representative. Her compound eyes reflected the horrible truth displayed before them. No single species has this kind of capability. You misunderstand, Dr. Nakamura's voice continued through the hijacked systems. We're not a single species anymore. We're a unified civilization that learned warfare from surviving on a world that tried to kill us every day. You executed our ambassador to teach us our place. Consider this lesson complete. Counselor Thex of the Melodian Harmony activated his personal communicator with trembling hands. Emergency broadcast to all Melodian worlds, he announced. Immediate neutrality declaration. We had no part in the human ambassador's execution. Repeat, the Melodian Harmony declares complete neutrality in this conflict. Similar messages began broadcasting from other council species as they realized the scope of their miscalculation. But human forces continued their systematic destruction of military targets with surgical precision. Civilian populations were untouched, trade stations were ignored, but every military installation that had supported the Council's decision faced total annihilation. Admiral Thompson received President Chen's authorization for the final phase of the operation. Proceed to the capital system, Saint Glyn 254, "Prosting armor," came the order. "Show them why Earth's children never surrender." The massive Earth fleet began its jump to Nexus Prime. 47 human warships, each one armed with weapons the Council had thought impossible, prepared to demonstrate the price of murdering diplomats. As the fourth day of humanity's response concluded, the galaxy had fundamentally changed. A third of the Council's military capability had been eliminated by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Trade routes were disrupted, defense alliances were collapsing, and panic spread among species that had thought themselves safely superior to younger civilizations. In the wreckage-strewn space around Axiom Prime, Sergeant Kim stood over the body of War Prince Gorthok. The fortress that had been considered impregnable lay in ruins around him. His radio crackled with reports from human forces across the galaxy. Every target eliminated, every objective achieved. "This is for all the humans who died begging for Council protection," Kim said quietly into his communicator. "And this is for the ambassador, who died trying to keep peace." The galaxy was learning what humans had always known: that peace was a choice made by those strong enough to wage war, but wise enough to seek better solutions. The Council had chosen war by executing Ambassador Park. Now they would live with the consequences of that choice, in a galaxy where human ships patrolled the space between the stars, ensuring that no diplomat would ever again die for asking for help. The age of Council dominance was over. The age of human enforcement had begun. The Earth fleet emerged from quantum space around Nexus Prime like thunder made visible. 47 human warships materialized in perfect formation around the Council's capital world, their weapons trained on military targets but holding fire. The demonstration of power was more terrifying than any attack could have been. President Chen Wei-lin stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking down at the planet where her friend and ambassador had been murdered 3 months ago. The world below her was heavily defended, surrounded by massive space stations and patrol fleets. But after watching human forces systematically destroy Council military assets across the galaxy, she knew the defenses were meaningless. "Admiral Thompson," she said calmly, "open communications to all frequencies." Her voice broadcast across the planet and to every ship in the system. "People of the galaxy, we are here not as conquerors, but as the voice of justice. Ambassador Min-jun Park died seeking peaceful coexistence between our species. Your Council executed him for the crime of requesting protection for human civilians who were being attacked by raiders. On the planet below, the surviving Council members watched human ships position themselves with mechanical precision. The formations were perfect, the spacing exact. This was the work of a species that had mastered warfare at a level they had never imagined. Chancellor Vex 7's crystalline form flickered with terror as she stared at the tactical displays. The human fleet showed on sensors as 47 ships, but intelligence reports claimed they had just destroyed military targets across 47 different star systems. Simultaneously, "How many ships do they actually have?" she whispered to her aide. "Unknown, Chancellor. Our estimates were clearly wrong about everything." Captain Elena Vasquez commanded the destroyer Times Park's Memorial Asterisk, positioned directly above the Council chambers where the ambassador had died. Her weapons could level the entire complex in seconds. But her orders were precise: demonstrate overwhelming capability, while offering terms for surrender. "Target acquired," her weapons officer reported. "The ceremonial chamber where they performed the execution is directly below us." Elena's finger hovered over the firing controls. She could avenge Ambassador Park with a single shot, but that wasn't what Earth wanted. They wanted something much more valuable than revenge. "Hold fire," she ordered. "Wait for the President's signal." President Chen continued her broadcast to the galaxy. "For 3 months, you celebrated the death of a diplomat who came seeking peace. Your news networks praised the Council's strength. Your military leaders boasted about how easily they could crush human resistance. We allowed you these celebrations while we prepared our response." The holographic displays throughout the planet showed the devastating scope of human capabilities. Fleet bases destroyed, patrol vessels eliminated, fortress worlds conquered, all accomplished with surgical precision, in a coordinated campaign that should have been impossible. You wanted to teach the galaxy what happens to species that challenge Council authority, President Chen continued. Instead, you taught us what happens when mercy is mistaken for weakness. Consider this lesson complete. President Chen. Consider this lesson complete. Deep in the council chambers, War Marshal Throck of the Andromedans activated his emergency communicator. All Andromedan fleets, immediate stand-down order. Do not engage human forces under any circumstances. Repeat, do not engage. Similar orders flashed out from the remaining council species. The regions declared neutrality. The Photonic Collective ceased all military operations. The Voidwalkers retreated to their home dimension entirely. Councillor Thex of the Melodian Harmony, the only representative who had voted against executing Ambassador Park, stepped forward with a white flag of surrender. His musical voice trembled as he spoke. The Melodian Harmony formally requests to serve as intermediary for peace negotiations. President Chen's response was immediate and firm. We do not seek the Council's destruction. We demand justice. Reparations for human colonies attacked by Council member species, and a new galactic charter that makes the murder of diplomats the highest crime in civilized space. Admiral Thompson's tactical display showed surrender signals coming from defense stations across the system. The most powerful military force in the galaxy was laying down arms rather than face the full fury of a species they had dismissed as primitive. Dr. Nakamura monitored communications from her command ship. Ma'am, she reported to President Chen. We're receiving formal surrender requests from military commanders throughout the system. They're asking for terms. Tell them the terms are simple, the President replied. Complete military stand-down, full reparations for human colonies damaged by Council forces, and acceptance of new diplomatic laws that protect envoys absolutely. Captain Vasquez watched through her viewports as alien defense platforms powered down their weapons. Massive Zephyrian crystal ships drifted helplessly with their engines shut off. Thalorian battle cruisers jettisoned their weapon pods in symbolic surrender. They're not even going to fight, her first officer observed with amazement. Would you? Elena asked quietly. After watching us eliminate a third of their military in 4 days? The formal surrender ceremony took place on Earth's moon 6 weeks later. The new Treaty of Luna established humanity not just as council members, but as enforcers of diplomatic law throughout the galaxy. The execution of ambassadors became a crime punishable by total war, with humans designated as the species responsible for enforcement. In the ceremonial hall where the treaty was signed, representatives from 43 species gathered under human protection. The document they signed reshaped galactic civilization, establishing principles that would govern interstellar relations for centuries to come. President Chen stood before the assembled delegates as the treaty was ratified. Ambassador Min Jun Park believed that different species could live together in peace, she said solemnly. He died for that belief. Today, we ensure that no other diplomat will share his fate. The massive statue, unveiled in Ambassador Park's honor, bore inscriptions in every galactic language. The human inscription was simple and clear. He died seeking peace, so his children learned war. Councillor Thex approached President Chen after the ceremony. The galaxy owes you a debt, he said softly. We had forgotten that peace requires strength to protect it. Remember that, Chen replied. Peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the choice made by those strong enough to fight, but wise enough to find better solutions. As human ships dispersed back to patrol duties throughout the galaxy, quantum communication networks carried a simple message to every human settlement among the stars. Mission accomplished, Ambassador. Your daughter will grow up in a galaxy where diplomats die of old age, not alien arrogance. The galaxy entered a new age where primitive species were no longer dismissed, where diplomatic immunity was sacred, and where humanity stood as guardian against those who would choose violence over negotiation. The Council had learned too late that humans weren't primitive. They had simply been choosing peace over conquest. Now, with human fleets patrolling the space between stars and human law protecting the weak from the strong, the galaxy finally had the peace Ambassador Park had died seeking. It was a peace enforced by the children of Earth, who had learned that sometimes the only way to preserve peace was to be prepared for war. In the depths of space, human ships carried sensors that could detect distress calls across impossible distances and weapons that could respond to threats faster than light itself could travel. Never again would a diplomat die for seeking peace. Never again would the strong prey upon the weak without consequence. The galaxy had a new order now, written in human determination and enforced by human strength. It was the peace Ambassador Park had dreamed of. Protected by the fury his death had awakened.